What up, yo? It's your boy JG, the Commodore / publisher at AuburnSports.com. Yeah, weird game. What a strange game. A game that was incredibly physical, very defensive-minded, which you would expect from two teams with excellent defenses like Auburn and Tennessee, but ultimately one that leaves Auburn wanting a little bit more, right? Specifically one more foul called, with Wen Green coming off a DHO or a ball screen and getting up for a shot that missed, but really, from my perspective, was not given an opportunity to land. And you've got to be able to do that, as we learned in the 2019 Final Four when Samir Dowdy, who was defending a shooter, it was the opposite roles there, was called for a foul in that game against Virginia because he didn't allow the guy to land. And then here's Auburn on the other side of that equation, and they don't get the call. It's a little bit frustrating, but I understand BP was pretty dang pissed about that one, and I don't blame him. Let's move over to our main page here, where you see the reset there on the left of the Auburn schedule, which is very unforgiving in this second half of the SEC season. And that's a game right there that I think, Tennessee had the better position in most of that game, led most of that game. I thought Auburn really came to play, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, but goodness gracious. You got to walk away feeling like Stephen Pearl did one hell of a job on that scouting report. He always does Tennessee. He's a former Tennessee player. No love lost on that one. Conferred with Todd Golden, the outstanding Florida coach, former Auburn assistant, who did a terrific job against Tennessee just the other night in Gainesville. They kind of worked together and came up with some really good ideas. Worked a little bit better in Gainesville than it did in Knoxville, which is to be expected, I reckon. But, yeah, one of those situations. We've already got some Super Chats coming through from some of the legends, including the Pocket Watch, the one and only. Says they're going to be talking about that one for a time. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. That's a stinger right there. It's a stinger. So many things to talk about in this one. Great things and then some things that weren't so great. Also one coming through from Sir Bradley or Bradford Easterwood. New ref, fun. Guys, can we get an applause on that one? Yes, we can. Okay, a little bit slow on that one, but that's fine. Yeah, kind of a little bit of a strange no call there at the end, and I understand BP's frustration with that one. He was chasing Don Daly across the floor, and I got damn near to the mid-circle before he gave up, and he realized he was going to be creating a problem. Because he wants to be gracious, He's in Knoxville. He's got a relationship with those folks, obviously. And hustled back over to congratulate Rick Barnes on the win. So, did the right thing, I think. Handled that well. But his dissent was noted by me, anyway. Super chat coming through from Blake R., one of our legends out there on the East Coast, who's doing great work every day. Ugly game, yes, JGT, but the Tennessee big man practically assaulted Wind sexually on that 3 at the end and didn't even offer to buy him dinner. Anyway, Wardam Eagle, let's drain. Here we are, Blake. I don't know about that. You probably went a little far with that one. I do think he did. I think he affected or got into Wynn's plane of verticality there. He tried not to. That's just how I see it. But there'll be people that will say, oh, he's just some he's some Auburn guy. Of course he sees that. I've got some experience with that particular call, and you guys do as well. Gray says, JGT all dressed up for the drain today. You know what? I put the tie on, as always. I was on a Tennessee show the other day, which I really enjoyed. I put it out on Twitter and wore the tie, and I thought about how I'm going to this wedding in Houston in a couple weeks, so I put the jacket on, and I was like, screw it, I'll just leave it on. Why not? Why not? Thanks for noticing, Gray. Chip in the house as well, one of our lower Alabama conquistadors, who says, I'm now a basketball atheist. Any basketball gods worth a sheet would have smote that arena at halftime. Chip, not a fan of defensive-minded basketball. I get it. I was actually texting with Gabriel DeArmond, publisher at Power Mizzou, who said he hated watching that game. He said he would much prefer to watch a 90-88 game. I am different. I enjoyed that game. I enjoyed watching it. It was fun to watch Auburn play defense like that. Auburn, my thing about Auburn, they play great defense in spurts, some of the best defense in the country. But that team kind of has this ADHD thing where they kind of float in and out, and they'll pay close attention for a 4-minute period or a 6-minute period or even like a 10-minute period, but then they'll lapse. And then they'll get it back, and they'll lapse, and they'll get it back. I thought in this game today, man, they were absolutely locked in from start to finish on the defensive end. And I would even argue that they were pretty locked in on the offensive end. They just weren't very successful. And I'm not sure it was a winning strategy to shoot that many threes. I mean, we know Auburn can't shoot from the perimeter. So I don't see the benefit to putting up whatever it was, 30 shots from three, 27. So they went 3 of 27, which is definitely, you'd expect a little bit better. I mean, they're not that bad. But it was just one of those days where nobody was shooting well. Tennessee had their own problems. Pocket with another super chat coming through. He's already got 2 in there. Says, whoa, Commodore BDJ rocking the tie and the jacket. Yes, sir. I was kind of expecting honestly was expecting a win today. I really was. I thought Auburn was going to come out with a great plan, and they did. I mean, they did, and I thought they were going to have enough, and they just didn't. They had such a weird day shooting the basketball. Timothy B says he would have missed that 3 anyway, but still a terrible call. I don't know. I had to finish up the game wrap, which I did post this time, unlike the other day when I failed to post it before we got on the air. But I was busy banging away on the keys to check to see if that shot had any chance of going in. But the bottom line is, I think his plane of verticality was infringed upon, in my opinion. And so it should have been a 3-shot foul. One man's opinion. Let's see what else. Cleveland jumping in. I wish I'd followed your advice a little more astutely last night, Cleveland Brown. He says, this L stung, but damn, what a good game. I agree with you on that. Cleveland Brown, of course, generally reminds us to stay hydrated, which is a great piece of advice. Even if you're not a drinker like myself, but just to stay hydrated in general is great. I didn't do a great job of that last night when I was partying with administrative assistant, Denton's mom, Denton's dad, and C-Web was there as well, along with T-Web. And Big Daddy was there as well in that crew. Stu Pup in the house, who super chats us every single show and has from the very beginning. What an incredible stud this guy is. This basketball season has been a joyless slog. Oh, my goodness. We'll give him one of those. I don't know about a joyless slog, but I understand where you're coming from, brother. There's just been there's been a lot of moderately good things that have happened, and then some real punches to the dick, right? And it's been one of those kind of deals. AU256, one of our legends up in the Huntsville-Madison area, says, JGT, we desperately need consistent shooters next year. So frustrating watching our 3-ball. Boy, this one was an absolute zipper, wasn't it? I mean, we know they don't shoot well, but to see them tonight struggle at that level, 3 of 27. I know everybody in this chat is thinking to themselves, I could hit more than 3 of 27. You're thinking that, right? But to go into Thompson Bowling with all those people and pressure situation, I'm not trying. I'm not going down that road. Hornatius jumps in. He goes as love the cats over here, but we love him anyway. He says, take a double nerd. So, as C-Web can attest, I did a lot of drinking last night. And I don't know if I'm really cut out to be drinking right now. I don't even have a drinking cup here. I mean, I always have bourbon right behind me. I mean, here's the deal, guys. If I'm going to drink, I'm going to have to take something off here, and I'm going to have to put it in the Family Dog pitcher and drink straight out of the pitcher. Are you guys okay with that? I mean, is that what you really want me to do? Because I'll do it. If that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. Get back with me on that, Hornatius. Ravine jumping in as well. What a stud this guy is. He's with us all the time. Called in once via proxy. He says, hard to win when you aren't hitting shots and not getting rebounds. I'll give it to our boys. They played hard. War Damn Eagle. Yes, BP said that. Repeatedly. Gave his team much credit for the defensive strategy, defensive effort. Said he can't ask for anything more. And I agree. Everybody else agrees here, too. Jarrett C., known to friends and foes alike as Jay, is here with us today. He says he's into the vodka fingers, as he calls it when he's gaming. Let's see. Locked On says, need to drop later. Don't do it. He's talking about me drinking something here. Hornacia says, I don't care if you drink from your shoe. Oh, my gosh.
I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. I don't like your jerk-off behavior. And I don't like you. Jerk-off.
Wow.
Do I make myself clear?
Tough words there. My goodness, guys. You must be salty. I thought you guys liked Hornacious. Nah, dude, that's Hornswoggle. That's a different horn. He's not even really part of the group. Anywho, he wants a double, so we got to do a double. Yeah, we'll do a double. We'll do a double. Screw it, we'll do a double. I don't care. Just trying to blow some of the dust out. All right, guys. We're drinking out of the Family Dog pitcher. Just going to drink straight out of the pitcher. ZFG, man. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that'll wake you up, man. Dang. Man, that 10-type series, that Cathead 10-type series hits hard when you're not ready for it. 7 years, 119.2 proof. I have seen this on the shelf. Well, it was actually, this is Series 1. I've seen Series 2 on the shelf in Alabama. The pitcher, Solo Tigre. This is from the Family Dog, which is a bar now closed, now defunct, in Richmond, Kentucky. It opened for a weekend, for Alumni Weekend in the fall, and noted bunker legend AU EKU, who is himself an EKU enthusiast, went and brought me 2 of these pitchers, believe it or not. What a legend that guy is, and I'm glad it finally got some use. Instead of just being beautiful on my shelf back there. Whoa, man, that thing hit hard. I wasn't ready for that. Jarrett with JC says, I'm impressed, Jay. My goodness. We do what we can, man. I mean, if he wants a double, I try to come through. Auburn fan 123 says, thoughts on Al's performance? Yes, let's get back to the chatter at hand. Al's performance to me was spirited and valorous and ultimately inefficient. I think he had 4 turnovers, 3 or 4 turnovers. Some of that old awkward stuff that he was doing 10 games ago. At the same time, he had a bunch of rebounds. He tied Wynn, of all people, for the defensive rebounding lead with 7. So I thought he was playing a pretty good game. The turnovers would be a negative. But in general, yeah. I thought he played pretty well. I would give him a B. If we're going through these, I'll just throw out some letter grades. Wynn Green, for me, A. The shooting was not there, but the rebounding was. The grit was there. He didn't get screwed up on the – they didn't do a lot of double-teaming him up high, but they did some, and now I thought he was able to work out of that a lot better than he had before. Let's see. Jalen was generally ineffective today. Probably give him a C. Janai, B, really good opening, solid later. Zep, probably give him a not, like an incomplete. He really wasn't a factor at all today. Al, for me, is probably a B. Could be a B+. I love Valorous. Katie Johnson, for me, is probably an A-. brought a lot of energy, and when Zepp wasn't doing anything, I thought KD was doing some stuff, and I thought his defense was pretty dang good. To keep Ziegler at 0 of 10, Ziegler at 0, he did score points, but he didn't hit a bucket. That's pretty dang good. So that's what I would give KD. Trey, I didn't notice him much today, so incomplete. Looks like he only got 6 minutes. Chris Moore, probably an incomplete on that. I mean, 11 minutes, which is probably enough to assess him, but I didn't really notice him. Yo played some today because Dylan was not there due to illness. Generally ineffective. Just kind of was out there. And then Lior, 8 minutes, had 3 shifts. No points. I don't know. Incomplete, probably. So that's how I feel about it. One man's opinion. Daniel P., a.k.a. MetalFan25 on the bunker, says we can all agree we got screwed, right? Yeah. I think that's not in a general sense, but I thought that last sequence was bullshit. I do. I think that he needed to have an opportunity to land, and we've lived that life, right? We've lived that life. Justin C. jumps in. Thoughts on Heismanberg and LeBaron Philon. An incredible day. I actually described this to the administrative assistant yesterday as perhaps the greatest day of Auburn recruiting that I've ever seen. And I've been at Auburn since 1998, to get LeBaron Philon, who we have as a 4-star rivals. I think everybody does. But the kid is an absolute phenom. And the fact that, finally this state has a kid who is an absolute stud, and he's going to go to Auburn, is a huge coup, I think. Alabama was right there, and Kansas was right there for him, and they wanted him bad. I think he's an incredible talent. Just a couple 3 weeks ago, he scored 30 consecutive points for his team. He has elite explosiveness, and I liken him to a potential Ja Morant. I think he's going to be... He just oozes athleticism. He is such a calm, cool operator. He doesn't get fazed by stuff. He doesn't get pressured by stuff. I love the whole swag thing that he's got, where he doesn't care about exposure. He doesn't care where he's ranked. He plays on kind of an out-of-the-way AAU team. He probably could have worked his way onto a CP3 team or whatever, got more exposure, played with guys like Dillingham, an Aiden or whoever. Just doesn't really care that much. He just wants to be a better basketball player where he's at. He's where his feet are, is what Coach Carnell would say. Be where your feet are. I love that about him. He's an incredible basketball player. Locked On, who was in the chat, was at the game last night between Baker and Cottage Hill down there in Lower Alabama, and watched Baker pull out a big-time comeback in that game, and LeBaron was huge at the end, hitting a couple free throws, getting a steal. I think the kid's unbelievable. And you guys are going to absolutely crucify me if he ends up being a 6-point-a-game guy, But I think he's got much more upside than that. Talking about when he calls him Heismanberg, I guess you mean the White Walker, a.k.a. Walker White, who committed to Auburn yesterday, the 4-star quarterback out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Dabo wanted him bad, and a lot of people thought Clemson was leading. But Auburn zipped in there and got him. And I think that's going to be a commitment that sticks. He is a 4-star quarterback. I believe we have him as the number 5 quarterback in the country. And he is the guy that Auburn wanted in that class, in the 24 class. And I thought what was really cool about that was dude came to the announcement with receipts, because he said, I'm committing to Auburn, and here's the guys that are going to be coming with me. Boom, boom, boom. I want all you guys here with me. And he starts calling out guys' names. I think it was 14 names yesterday. 14 recruits. And he said, I'm coming for you, and you're going to play with me at Auburn. Love it. He won't get all 14. Of course not. But I love that attitude, and I think that's exactly why Philip Montgomery said, that's my guy. He knew what we all saw. Same for Hugh Freeze. And this is another situation where the people who doubted Freeze's ability to recruit are having to eat a gigantic white dog shit. Proverbially, of course. because we wouldn't actually make somebody do that. Let's see. D. Lucky says, no way does Wynn get an A, Commodore. Turnovers, bad shots, poor basketball IQ all day. I respect your opinion, D. Lucky. I do. You know I love you. In fact, I named a bedroom in our house after you and your wife because you're the most famous people who have ever been here and may indeed remain that way for 20 years. However, I liked Wynn's spirit today. I like Wynn's valorous spirit today. He fought the whole way through, played incredible defense on Ziegler. There were some questions on the offensive end that I think you could have some questions, and I understand what you're saying. Basketball IQ kind of comes and goes a little bit with him, right? But you don't have that opportunity to win that game without Wynn playing the way he did today. That's how I feel about it. Let's see. AU Storm, my man, what's up, bro? Says we got screwed by Wendell. Hasn't made 3 free throws back to back to back all year. Oh boy, is that true? Brock says starters had some success on offense. Didn't all play together much after the first shift. It's a good point. Somebody was mentioning, I think it was, I can't remember who it was on the bunker that was asking about Lior and Trey always kind of working together and always swinging in together, rotating together. It's interesting. I haven't really gotten that deep with it. I bet you Justin Ferguson would know that. He gets real deep on that stuff, and I like him. What else we got here? Ruxy Poo in the chat. You know we love Ruxy Poo. Man, what a legend. Ruxy Poo, one of the great success stories in bunker history, in my opinion. He says, great game by our guys. Tough to play against number 2 and the refs. Interesting. Locked On jumps in on the gigantic white dog shit, saying it was never a bet, Jay. That's an interesting defense on that one, isn't it? We have talked about this many times, Locked On and I, and Double D's, that was absolutely a bet and the dog shit should have been eaten. Should have been ingested. It should have been ingested, but it hasn't been yet. Brad E. says, who gave me a thumbs down? Who did it? I want you to name yourself. We should have a much better like to dislike ratio. So I encourage you to hit the like button if you're watching. 11-2 is not going to get it. Brad E. says, any bourbon being drunk? Indeed, there has been some. Some Cathead 10-type Series 1 and 119 proof was just consumed out of the Family Dog pitcher. Because I did not prepare properly for the show. Because I drank a lot last night and I didn't feel like drinking, but I'll do it. Alpha Tiger wants to know, when are we adding a Pern page to the bunker? We shall not do that, Alpha. You don't think there's enough Pern pages on the internet? I'm sure somebody on the bunker can help you find one if you're not able to find one. Patrick P. says, it's a baseball season yet. I think it's going to be a rewarding baseball season. I do. I think we all agree that Butch Thompson's an absolute G. And Brian and Brian have told me that they like this team a lot. So that's good. And I do think for those of you who are softball enthusiasts, such as myself, I think softball it takes all the good things about baseball and makes them great. And takes all the bad things about baseball, specifically how long it takes to watch a daggone game, and eliminates it. So I love softball, and I will be watching a lot of softball this year. I think they're going to be good this year. Not going to be awesome, but they're going to be good. I think Auburn baseball is either going to be good or awesome. Just kind of depends on the starting pitching, I think. Blake R. thinks baseball is going to go back to Omaha. That would be incredible. Incredible. Corey Dub says, heading to the baseball banquet in a bit. Need me to ask Butch anything? Yes, I do. I would like for you to ask Butch, why is he so handsome, and how can I be more handsome like him? That would be the question I would ask. No, I wouldn't really ask him that. I would just, I get a little starstruck by Butch. I'll be honest with you. Not by BP and not by Hugh, but by Butch. I just think of the world of Butch. I thought of the world of Butch when he was an assistant. I think of the world of him now that he's the head coach at Auburn. He is the exact kind of person that if I had a son, which I don't, but if I did, I would want him to play for somebody like Butch Thompson. I absolutely love the guy. I am sipping on the Cathead Tintype Series 1 Dark Side. There's 119 proof. It's good stuff. When you're not ready for it, it will hit you hard, though. If you like bourbon that's kind of rough on the front end, that's a great pick. In fact, I'm going to take another sip. You may not know this, Dark Side, but I didn't adequately prepare, and so I don't have a cup up here, so I'm just pouring it into this pitcher. And I'm just drinking it straight out of the pitcher. ZFG, guys. ZFG. Do not care. Ah, yeah. Got to get that last little sip. Whew. All right. Oh, JT Moon says I'm rustled, not athletics. Dadgummit, I didn't bring it up here, and I should have. For the first time in a long time, I received a box today of, well, I was going to say auburnsports.com swag. It's actually rivals.com swag that I had made for the guys to wear. These are hoodies. It has rivals.com logo in Auburn colors on a blue hoodie. And then on a black hoodie, I made it a white logo, which makes it even more fly. We got those today, and I will be distributing those to our employees on Tuesday. One to Stoltze. Well, whatever. Yeah, one to Stoltze, a couple to BMAT, one to Caleb, one to Henry. We got some T-shirts as well. Again, does not say auburnsports.com, just has a Rivals logo, but it's in the Auburn colors. Colors. Those of you remember Ice-T singing about colors in 88, 89. It's a big deal. D. Lucky says, hey, hydrate. Where is the administrative assistant with the charcuterie? That's charcuterie, I said. Darkside says, what a stud pitcher guy. Boom! Hold on, I have a sound for that one right here. Hold it right here.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
That's what I'm talking about. The pitcher wants to mess with me, find out what happens. Hornatius says, tell AA it's a good time for a chili sampler platter. Chile. She did bring me a chili sampler platter once. That's a really good memory of you, bro. I think it was from the when they had the chili cook-off at the Biscuit Stadium, which I like to go to, but Auburn had a game this year that was in that time frame, and so we were here drinking and having fun. And then she brought me some from the event. Isn't that incredible? Casa DP in the house says, yo, what up, y'all? We love Casa DP. One of the legends from the greater Atlanta area, who is also a horse racing enthusiast like I am. Darkside says, JG, thoughts on Walker White? My thoughts on that were that's an absolute fucking heist in recruiting. That is a 5-star heist, in my opinion. And he is their absolute, no doubt, number one choice at quarterback in that class. And the fact that they can show up, decide he's their guy, and go and steal him from Clemson is unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. I did not think they could do that. And I generally believe in Hugh. Like, I think he's going to get done all the stuff he says he's going to get done. But when he said, well, anyway. Pulling Walker White's a big deal. Cassidy pieces Holy Bull post in 10 minutes. It's funny you say that because I've got a picture of Holy Bull on the other side of this wall right here. I can't prove it to you. I mean, I could. Fuck it, I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't care. Look at this. Hey, who is it, man? Which horse is that, huh? I'm not saying you would doubt me, though. Holy freaking bull. Right there. Holy Bull. One of my all-time favorite horses. You know he got sponged in the Derby. It was proven. It was proven. I'd love to watch that. Let's see, JT Moon says, I'm assuming White is well-liked among the highly sought-after recruit population as well. Indeed he is. I think he's the kind of kid that's got some sway, you know what I mean? And I think the kids that are on offense, tight ends, wide receivers, offensive linemen who want to win are going to flock to him. And I bet he's going to be able to pull some dudes. Like, he's going to be able to pull some dudes. Like, seriously. Anywho, Cassidy P says, I'm the man because I had Holy Bull. He loves Holy Bull. Who knew? He should have won the Derby in 94-ish. Was it 94, 93, in that range? I'm trying to think. 92 was Lily T. 93 was Sea Hero, I think. So it would have been 94. I believe so. I could be wrong, though. I've been drinking bourbon out of a pitcher. So there you go. Cassidy P says, having White this early has to pay off. Huge from a football perspective. Absolutely. I mean, to me, he's like an anchor of an entire class, and he's the second or third guy, third guy that they get in that class. They've got the Amon Lane, and then they got Jaden from Anniston, and then Walker White. He's a crown jewel. You know, back in the day, man, you couldn't really get crown jewels this early. I mean, years ago. I'm trying to remember the last. I'm not going to say he was the last one, but they did get a crown jewel, in my opinion, early when they got Brad Lester. That was years ago. Brad's now like grown up, and he's a big-time trainer over there in Atlanta. But he was a very early commit for Auburn, and he ended up being an absolutely stud player. It's hard to get those guys early these days, but Auburn did. Speaking of getting guys early, what a week for Auburn basketball on the recruiting front, right? We talked about LeBaron Philon earlier because I'm a huge fan of the kid. I think that he's got legend written all over him. Now, I'm not going to say he's like Barkley. Barkley's in one of the 50 best pro basketball players in history. But I think that LeBaron Philon has a chance to go down as, you know, one of the 2 or 3 best players ever to play at Auburn. My opinion. Did you guys hear that? If you did, I'm sorry. Because that was a alert on my messages. Yikes. I hope you guys didn't hear that. Let's see what else. Cassidy Pieces Holy Bowl was 1994. Not too bad. Not too bad that I remembered that. He got sponged, by the way. When you guys say, what the hell does it mean to sponge something, dude? My girl sponges. No. They put sponges in his nose so he couldn't breathe. And you do that when he's the favorite so he doesn't win, and you can make money on the guys that do win. It's a little shady. Daniel P. says, damn, JG, calling your shot. I think the guy's incredible. I mean, to me, look, guys, when they signed Jabari, he was the number 4 player in the class. So, I mean, you can't really beat that. Although if they sign Flory Badunga, he's the number 2 or will be number 1 player in the class. So that would be even bigger. But to me, LeBaron Philon, franchise player. Franchise player. Probably the most impactful player that Auburn has signed since Charles Barkley, is my opinion. Now that's kind of, I'm baking a lot of stuff into that, right? Because he's in high school. He's a junior right now. He's not like the number 1 player in that class, although I've got reasons for that. But I think he's incredible, and I think it's a huge get. I know Locked On had a chance to see him play in person yesterday and was like, holy shit, this kid's incredible. And I was like, yes, he is. He really is. Daniel P. says, you feel pretty good about where we stand with Badunga. Flory Badunga is the number 2 player in the 2024 class. He's a center. He lives in Kokomo, Indiana. That is based on the Beach Boys song from 1989, although they sang about it as if it was in the Caribbean. I don't really get what the hell that means. But anyway, he is in Big Ten country. He will not be playing in the Big Ten. You can mark my words on that. I believe this is going to come down to Auburn and Cincinnati. And I think Auburn's going to pull this out. And I'm going to tell you why I think Auburn's going to pull this out. Auburn's going to pull this out because Tahad Pettiford, who we haven't mentioned yet on the show, but who committed to Auburn earlier in the week, who is himself a high 4-star point guard from New Jersey. I believe Rivals has him as a top 20 player in this class. I think he and LeBaron, who kind of came to an agreement to play together, I think they're going to be able to pull him. I think the fact that Flory is going to know those two guys and he's going to say, I'm going to play with those two plus Aiden Holloway. I'm going to get all the feeding I can possibly get. I'm going to get this all day long from elite point guards. And between today and the moment that Flory Badunga chooses, Walker Kessler is going to continue to become a phenom in the NBA, right? This may go down as the most lopsided trade in history. That the Jazz gave Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves to get Walker Kessler, who already is better than Rudy Gobert. He's already better. Like right now. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention. You probably have been, but if you haven't, Walker Kessler is an absolute stud, as we knew, but he's doing it in the NBA. And now Bruce can say, hey, Flory, you want to be like that? Because we got him a guaranteed deal for $2 million a year, or whatever it is, $1.8 million, and he's about to be in a situation where he can collectively bargain for his second contract. That's where you make your money in the NBA, and he's going to make a shitload of money. That's what it comes down to. Chip says we need a badunga-dunk on the team. I love it, man. Well said. Well said. I also think if Yo stays and Yo becomes the kind of player I think he can become, he ain't there yet, but when he does, he can help too. I just kind of feel like it's coming together. And I also feel like Stephen Pearl, who is Flory Badunga's primary recruiter, is kind of like he's kind of like self-actualizing. I mean, like, he's been a guy that, like, you know, he was kind of on the periphery right in the beginning, and then BP hired him onto the, you know, the counting staff like 3 years ago, I think. And now he's really kind of earning his stripes as a coach. Like the scouting job he did in the Georgia game from the other night, which he was the lead scouter on that game, and then he was the lead scouter on this game, which you gotta admit, the scouting report in this game was unbelievable, right? I mean, the execution on defense was unbelievable. He's really coming alive as a coach. Stephen Pearl, I'm talking about. And the fact that he's the lead recruiter on Flory Badunga, he's been the lead recruiter on Flory Badunga from the beginning, it just reminds me of a situation where he's going to come out on top and he's going to get the guy he needs. You know? Like, he hasn't done that prior, but he's, like, getting better, and I think this is going to be his magnum opus right here. One man's opinion. I could be wrong. Gray Manley says, JGT, who is your ideal starting five picking from just the Pearl era? Interesting question. Let's see. I'll take Jared Harper all day at the 1. I'll take Bryce all day at the 2. 3. Interesting. You want to say Isaac Okoro, although I wasn't crazy about him as a college player. He's coming along in the NBA. And I happen to be a big fan of Al Flanagan, but I'm still going to say Isaac. We'll take Isaac at 3. 4, got to take Chum, right? I like Chum. Janai's been really good, but Chum's even better. And then at 5, Walker Kessler, obviously. But that leaves Jabari Smith on the outside looking in, which is weird because he's a terrific player too. Although I stand by my belief that Chuma would be the guy I would pick. So, maybe we can just put Jabari at like 6-man or something. I don't know. I still would take Chuma over Jabari. I really would. As a college player, as the guy he was in college, Chum at the end of his Auburn career was unbelievable. JT Moon says, Jabari at 4, sir. I respect that opinion. It's a fine opinion. It really is. And a very defendable position. I'm just telling you, I believe in Chum. although they're both incredible players. You would like to see more competition at the 2 spot, right? I mean, to me, Bryce is the obvious star. I mean, he's a guy who shot 44% for a season, so you might as from 3, I should say. And I also feel like I was there at the moment when he became self-actualized. If you remember, those of you who have been around a long time, Bryce kind of sucked early on in his career, right? He was a guy who took bad games to heart too damn much, right? He would have a game where he misses 4 shots in a row, and it would get in his head the way it used to do for Trey Blackman on the football field, and it would just mess him up, man. That cognitive dissonance would just blow him up, right? And I was at practice one time in the arena. It was Auburn Arena at the time. And he was dicking around at practice or whatever like he liked to do. He was a guy that was like either all in or all out, you know? And BP subbed his ass out, and he was sitting on the scores table watching a scrimmage. And BP went over to him and absolutely annihilated him. Right there in front of the team, in front of everybody who was in that arena. I mean, there's always some people watching and stuff. BP's got, folks that come in and watch the practices and stuff. No holds barred, man. 5 minutes of just absolutely lighting him up. Like standing right in front of him, screaming at him, telling him what he did wrong and what his problem was with his attitude, and said, essentially, and I'm just paraphrasing it here, you suck, and you should be good. This is about midway through his junior year. And guess what happened? It popped, man. It popped. He went out there shortly after that. It might have been the next game, I don't know, and became the man. And it probably changed the trajectory of this entire program. Sometimes you got to do that. John D says Chuma can play 3. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead. I'm willing to do that. We'll put Chuma at 3, Jabari at 4, Walker Kessler at 5, and then we'll make Isaac Okoro the 6th man. I feel more comfortable with that for me personally. So that's a good call, John D. I appreciate you jumping in there. Daniel P., who's Metal Fan 25 on the bunker, says, I'd take Jabari at 4. Then you have 2 dudes in him and Bryce that can knock down any shot at any time. Hold on now. Now, Chum was a really good shooter, too. I respect your opinion, though. Blake R. says Bryce sucked horribly for a while. He needed Bruce's tough love. He really did. He really did, man. Bryce is such an interesting kid. Very, very bright. I thought he was too bright for his own good. Because he overthought things. Sometimes you have kids that do that. I think that on this current team, I think that Dylan does that. Blake R. says, is this all Bruce-era players? Yeah, I believe that was the question, Blake. I think. If it was all time, we got to change it up a little bit. And I want to say that I don't give a shit what team it is. If we're talking about a college team, Marquise Daniels is going to be on my team no matter what. Marquise Daniels, in his last year at Auburn, is the most clutch player I have ever seen in my entire life. Ever. Except for the dude Paul that played at Faulkner. I covered Faulkner in the 2001 NAIA tournament. This dude named Paul Little from Andalusia, Alabama, was the most dominant player I've ever seen in my life at the NAIA level. But he was an NAIA player, so it's fine. Unbelievable. He led Faulkner to a national title that year. And I still say, 20-something years later, he's the most dominant player I ever saw, like in a tournament. But Marquise was so good and so versatile, he would definitely be on my team if we were going outside the Bruce era. I mean, you got to go for guys like Chuck Person, Chuck Barkley, Chris Morris, CP. We got to find a way for them. Doc Robinson. We got to find a way for Wes Flanagan. So many good ones, man. But Marquise Daniels, holy shit, man. Canoeman says we got Jarrett. Nah. I forgot the next word, but yeah, that was pretty good. That was a great call. Canoeman did super chat earlier. He says BP was pissed after the game. Yeah, I wrote that in the game wrap. I said he was stalking Don Daly after that game. But I give him credit, and I'm not sure I would have done the same thing he kind of realized he was going too far across the court, and he came back to congratulate Rick Barnes on the win because he's a classy guy like that. And although I don't think those guys are friends at all, I do think that BP knows that he's got to show some respect there. And so he did. That was a pretty big moment, I think. One man's opinion. Let's see. Chip says his 5 from the Bruce Pearl era will be Harper, Bryce, Jabari, Walker Kessler, and Chum. Yeah, I think that's where I would be too, bro. And we would put Isaac as the 6th man, which I think is fair. You can do that. You can make him a 6th man. They give a 6th man of the year award, so yeah, it's a legitimate thing. Turtle says, Turtle, what's up, Turtle? You have faith? Do you? He says Anthony was my favorite player. Anthony, before he got hurt, was unbelievable. I still don't think I would take him over Chum or Jabari, but he was incredible. He was that pick and roll roller is what he was, right? They would set the pick and roll with Anthony. The ball would come across him. He would slip back behind the screen and then pop for a 3, and he was unbelievable at that. Then he got hurt at South Carolina that one time. Broke his ankle, as I recall. And, yeah, rest is history. Cassidy P says, I was way off on my Holy Bull wager. That's Holy Bull is a race. It's also a horse, but it's also a race. Huge payout on the trifecta and super slow pace, but good win for the 8 horse. There we go. A little bit of thoroughbred racing here on the Brain Drain. We like to touch on everything. Kanuman says, completely agree about Marquise Daniels. We were talking after the game how he was underrated, even as good as he was considered. You're right. His last year at Auburn, he was considered to be an all-conference player, but I thought he was even better than that, right? And in the game against Syracuse, 2003 NCAA tournament, which they ultimately lost by 1, although it's a little misleading because Derek Bird hit a 3 at the buzzer to take it from a 4-point deficit to a 1. But nonetheless, Syracuse won the title that year with Carmelo Anthony. They were playing 2-3 all day. And Auburn put Marquise Daniels in the middle of that zone and said, fix this problem for us. So he would post up essentially at the free throw line. This is in Albany, New York. Post up at the free throw line and figure shit out. Either score or dish it. And he was a magician all fucking night because he's a magician. I'm also fired up to know that Marquise's daughter is going to be playing for Coach Johnny at Auburn beginning next year. So that's going to be really cool for me to see. That'll be is that the first time the offspring of a kid I covered would actually I be covering that person? It could have happened with Shard Gilliard, but his son didn't end up kind of being quite to the Auburn level. Yeah, I think that would be. Kanuman jumps in with another super chat and says, Marquise is still my all-time favorite player. Very, very good player to have as your all-time favorite player because he's a cool dude. And don't forget this part of the story with Marquise. He came here as an academic risk. Yes, back in the old Prop 48 days. He came here as an academic risk, and he graduated in 3 years. What does that tell you about him? Tells me all I need to know about the person he is. You know, they're not just guys in jerseys. They're people. Kanuman has sat right behind BP with his interview with Andy, and he did not sound nearly as mad as his body language showed. BP would not talk to anyone before or after through the stat sheet during the interview. Whew. Wow. Kanuman also reminds us Pepsi Center in Auburn, 19,898 Syracuse fans and maybe 75 Auburn. And that's probably a stretch. Interesting. Flying around, he's a brain drain legend for various reasons. First of all, his calls are legendary. Second of all, for other reasons. He says, my favorite player is still Moochie Norris. Sucks that the NCAA screwed him over. He would have been one of the greatest at Auburn. Moochie Norris was a hell of a basketball player. You're right. He's in the picture, no doubt. He's in the team picture. Decatur Tiger 97 says, what's up, JG? Decatur Tiger, what up? Glad to have you here, man. Love you on the bunker, too. Hornatius jumps in and says, drank from the dog pitcher. It's the family dog. Dog. Ooh, there it is. Went to the family dog a few times. It was I would call it a beer bar at Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, Kentucky. And you go up there and you're expecting shit to be really crazy. And it was every time. Very chatty. You might see a fight outside. Or maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. I'm not a big fighter myself. What was interesting is I think my wife and I were there at the same time in the fall of 1991, but we didn't know each other. And so we might have just been there concurrently. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing to consider. Casa DP jumping in after some great chats here and updates on the Holy Bull Stakes. Says, any Bruce list without a Bowers 1 and 4 double dip is incomplete. Just saying. Simeon Bowers. A very versatile player, we'll put it that way. Also, Simeon Bowers showed me one time his bullet wounds from when he got shot. Young man from the gritty streets of Racine, Wisconsin, which I didn't know was such a tough place, but now I do. A very tough individual. Also a fan of soccer. You would not expect that, but he was and is. Thank you, Casa DP. Not only for that super chat, but also for the for what you did for me in the fall, bro. It's not forgotten. And every time I watch the replay of Flightline winning the Breeders' Cup Classic at Keeneland, I don't actually see you because I wouldn't know you to see you, but I know where you were standing, and I always think of you and your wife over there. Indeed. And I have watched that replay a number of times. Let's see, Turtle says, talk about the NCAA screwing over Sharif. Got that treatment too. I don't know all the details on that one. I do think, I want to say this, man, on the Sharif Cooper situation. I know this is old news now. That was during the COVID season, right? 2020. He had to sit out essentially half the season. And when he came back in, I mean, he was behind the 8-ball. But he was still playing, but he was still balling. I personally think that Turtle is correct, that Sharif got a bad go of it. However, sometimes you just gotta try to not put yourself in bad situations. And I don't think Sharif put himself in a bad situation, but I think that Sharif's dad may have put him in a bad situation. I don't think Sharif did anything wrong. But I think sometimes you just gotta chill. And that's how I feel about that. Crawdaddy says, Harper, Frankie Tolbert, Frankie Six Fingers Tolbert. He had 6 fingers, no shit. And Quantez Robertson. Oh man, what a great name. He would be in the picture, in my opinion. Tez Robertson, absolute stud. And the thing I love about Tez is that he had stamina of 99, if you were talking about FIFA numbers. He could play the whole game. He played 40 minutes. He played 45 minutes in a game one time. A guy like that can play for me. You know, he's like a better version of Javon. So I would love to have Tez as my backup point guard. I love it. You know, Tez had gotten elbowed in the head one time. This is back whenever he was playing, 04-ish? Got elbowed in the head and had to have stitches. And instead of, like, patching it up, really, he would wear a headband to kind of cover it up and keep it from getting smacked or cut or whatever. And so he had gotten used to wearing the headband all the time. And even after the cut had healed, he continued wearing the headband. And so I asked him one time, Tez, man, what's going to happen if someday you come into the arena and you're not wearing the headband anymore? Are you ever going to get tired of it? And he says, you know what I'll be? I'll be regular old Tez without a headband. That was one of my favorite answers to a question I've ever asked. I'll just be regular old Tez without a headband. It's so funny, man. Oh, my God. You know my favorite question I ever asked, though? Ever? It was a question that I asked of Damon Duvall back at, what is that, 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere in that range. I said, Damon, you've been portrayed in the media as a rebel. Are you a rebel? I thought it was hilarious. The timing was perfect. This was before the streaming era, so you guys didn't see it. I also asked Ben Leard one time. He had gotten hit real bad in the game and had to come out. Remember, he used to get hit a lot, and like he got concussed at Arkansas memorably. And a few other times, Ben Leard really put his body on the line for Auburn. There's no doubt about that. There was one time where I thought he got knocked out, but he ended up not actually having a concussion. And I said, my question to him after the game was, "Hey Ben, are you glad that you don't have a concussion?" I thought that was a great question. He probably was really glad though. JT Moon says Tez recently became the highest scoring player in the history of the Frankfurt team he plays for. I had no idea. Thank you for that, bro. I'm glad to hear he's doing well out there. Tez is one of the really good guys, man. Young man from the greater Cincinnati, Ohio area. That's where Nick the pipe layer lives, although he's watching the Purdue-Indiana game right now, and he's not here. But, yeah, that's great news, JT. Appreciate that update. Gray Manley says Tez might have been the fastest with the ball from baseline to baseline. Would love to see the race between him and Jared. Tez was a stud. I'm glad y'all brought him up. He's really, really cool. Auburn fan 123 says can't forget Corvatney Barber. The star of the Lebo era, right? Well, hold on now. It's between him and Kenny G, right? Kenny Gabriel was an absolute stud, too. Vaught Barber, at the time, I think, was like the first McDonald's All-American they'd ever signed, right? Of course, passed away tragically he drowned trying to save somebody down there in the Florida Panhandle, which is awful. But, yeah, I think Vaught would definitely be in the team picture, right? The problem is he's playing a position at the 4 with Barkley, at least potentially Chuck Person, Chum, Jabari. Like, there's a lot of dudes there. That would be tough. Now, AU Taxman says, wow, Sharif averaging 27 and 6 this year. Yeah, I mean, he is like in baseball if you were a quadruple A player, right? Like, he's too good for the G League, but he's not good enough for the NBA because he can't. Even though his shooting's been better, I just don't think he's ever going to shoot enough to work in the NBA because he's kind of like there was this dude that played in the NBA back about 20 years ago. He played at UConn in college. His name was Kevin Ollie. Great college player, but he just wasn't quite good enough shooter in the NBA. But he was able to carve out a career because back in those days, you could be kind of a pass-first point guard and be a backup, like career backup, kind of like TJ Ford was. I feel like these days they won't even let him do that. Like not him specifically, but point guards that can't shoot just don't have a spot. I mean, Jared was probably in that group too. Jared's a little, I don't know. Sharif to me is a little longer than Jared, so he probably would have a better shot, but he just doesn't shoot well. Chris Denson, Justin C. mentions, Chris Denson could play for me any day of the year. Love Chris Denson. The pride of Columbus, Georgia. And AU Taxman says Gabriel was so good. He really was. It's a shame because he played on a team that was actually decent by Auburn standards at the time, right? They got the NIT. Kenny Gabriel's really good. I know he's still playing too, years and years later. Hayden thinks that's a fantastic comparison to say that Sharif's kind of a quad A player. Yeah, I hate it though because he's really exciting. He's an incredibly creative. And frankly, he does shit that's like magician style on the court, right? When he was at Auburn, the way that Wen loves himself a 28-foot shot is the way that Sharif loved the double team to try to split him. He wouldn't even need to split him. He would still try it. And he was pretty damn successful at it. He just had big, huge balls. And the more you would challenge him, the more he would want to come at you. I love that about him. Absolutely love that about him. Simeon Powers, though. Casa DP bringing that up. Good stuff, man. Let's see. JT Moon says Kevin Ollie dropped the ball by not taking the Lakers job when his UConn teams were rolling. I didn't realize he had that opportunity. Yeah. AU Taxman says, don't forget TJ Dunnins, great player and better guy. Yeah, not sure about that. Him and Kareem Canny. Eesh. Pretty good basketball players, though. And you got to give TJ credit for being the guy that tried to slide in that Georgia huddle at one time. That was pretty good. Still one of the great gifts of all time. Although I recently switched my the actual signature, my GIF and my signature on the bunker to Barn been cheating. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't remember who I stole it off of. I asked for permission and I got it. But it's a picture of a barn with a blue like police light on top of it, and it says Barn been cheating. Barn cheating. No, it says Barn cheating again. That's what it is. Which you know has been said about 100,000 times in this state for the last 3 days, right? Auburn got themselves another point guard. You know they've been cheating. Barn been cheating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How dare they? JT Moon says, Barbie era player I like the most is Chris Denson. Super underrated. I'm afraid people 10 years from now won't even remember him. And it's sad. It's hard to find a two-guard that was better than him at going to the hole. He could finish way over the numbers you would expect. You know, if you're looking at 40 drives, how many of those would you expect him to finish on? It would probably be 20. It'll be 30 for him. If they did a Pythagorean number for the number of expected buckets on 40 drives, whatever that number is, Denson will be above it. I don't know how he did it. He just had this ability to kind of shape his body in weird ways and still get the ball off. He was incredible. Let's see. Hayden says, would have been awesome to see Sharif and Okoro together, or Sharif and Jabari. I'm not sure how the games would match up together, but I would have loved to see it. Yeah. Particularly Sharif on that team. Yeah, last year, right? Sharif and Jabari together would have been really cool. Gray Manley going the other direction. He says, least favorite player from the Pearl era was TJ Lang. Wow. Honorable mention to D'Angelo. D'Angelo can be difficult to like for various reasons. TJ is a nice human being, though. A frustrating player, but a really nice human being. I wouldn't necessarily say that D'Angelo was as much, maybe. But I really like TJ as a person, so that's a good plus. And also, Buck Johnson's kid, Jamal Johnson, also a really, really cool kid. Kind of a frustrating player, right? Ended up being kind of a spot-up shooter, which is definitely not what I thought he would be. It's kind of his role, I guess. Love the Cat says, damn, Jay got the Rona. I don't think I do. Do you think I do? I'm not coughing. I'm not out of breath or anything. Who knows? Hayden says he saw D'Angelo at the Odd Auburn the other day checking his mail. I know he's still around. He got back on Twitter, too. He had a little bit of a Twitter dust up at some point in the past, but he's back on Twitter. We're glad to see it. Turtle says my favorite player from the Barbie era was the Moving Company. Boom. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I thought it was a good hire at the time. I really did. When Jay was like, I'll tell you guys something. That Tony Barbie at UTEP is pretty good, guys. I was in. I was like, hey, he's doing great stuff at UTEP. He's kind of from the John Calipari, which at the time Calipari was a coach people wanted. Blake R. says my favorite Auburn guard all time was Doc Robinson. I may have had a little bias in that. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the bias was. Doc Robinson, of course, from Selma, Alabama, a former Selma Saint. Now goes by Julius, by the way, in his real life. And still a cool dude. Was an interesting case because he went out to Riverside, California, where he had some relatives, and he played summer ball out there. Like AAU ball. He played out there and kind of got a following, because he was damn good and showy and chatty. Helped him a lot, didn't it? He's a good player. Really good player. Mobile alum jumping in. One of the true legends from the lower Alabama area. We like to call that the Mobile area, but she's actually on the other side of the bay. She says, hey, JG, disappointed with the loss. What wins do you see for us going forward? Looking forward to the LA party last weekend of April. She's pushing that, isn't she? Oh, Blake R. I was asking about his connection biased on Doc. Did not even think about how Blake is himself a Robinson. I get it now. Mobile alum, let's see. Let's go through these. Alabama at home. Okay, well, hold on. At Texas A&M, I think Auburn's going to win that game. I do. There'll be a lot of people who think I'm crazy for saying that, but I think Auburn's going to get that. I know who's scouting that game. It's Coach Wes, and it's Coach Prue. I think they're going to have something special for that one. And I just think that the game in Auburn against A&M was It ended up being, what, a 13-point loss? I've got it up here on the screen. 16-point loss. Yikes. I didn't realize it was that bad. But they kind of throttled down the last 5 minutes of that game. I think they're going to get some things straightened out with their screen defense this time, and I think it's going to be a different deal. So I think they win that one. Bama at home on February 11th. I think Auburn's going to win that one too. Missouri at home, I think they'll win that one. At Vanderbilt, I think they'll win that one. At Ole Miss at home, I think they'll win that one. Then at Kentucky, L. At Alabama, L. Tennessee at home to finish out the regular season. It's a tough one. Sheesh, man. I think Auburn can win that game. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and say Auburn wins the Tennessee game at home, but loses the home game against Alabama. So that still gets them to, what, 11 wins in the SEC? That's going to be an 8 seed or a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament is what I see. That's what I'm seeing. AU Taxman says, I was a big Jamison Brewer fan. Cliff liked to call him Jamie, but he hated being called Jamie. Still best passer we've had at Auburn, in his opinion. To me, like, him and Sharif are a lot alike. Both magicians on the ball. Jamison, different personalities. Neither one of them really a notable shooter. I could see that. He was kind of lightning. He was an important part of that 2003 team because Marquise, as much of a stud as he is, he needed somebody else. You know, he needed a Robin to his Batman, and that was who Jamison Brewer was. Adam Peace is one of my favorite Lebo Barbieri players. Was Lucas Hargrove. Saw him at the Memphis game in Atlanta. He had a great putback dunk against Bama. That's a great thing to have on your resume, right? A putback dunk against Bama. How many of us have one of those? Huh? Not me. Probably not you either. Yeah, Lucas Hargrove. Young man out of South Carolina. Surprisingly good shooter for his body type, right? He was kind of a forward, but he had a really nice, sweet shot. You could win with Lucas Hargrove. I like him. Ronnie Lamel, kind of in that same genre. One of my all-time favorite athletes at Auburn, Ronnie Lamel. What a stud that guy is. He ended up playing professional basketball in Finland, as I recall. Finland. Yeah. Met a girl out there, too. Yeah, I ended up marrying a girl from out there. It's just it's a success story. You don't have to be in the NBA to be a huge success. You know what I mean? Henry P is in the chat. Our outstanding intern says, I think Auburn finishes the Final Eight 5-3 and gets both the home games against Bam Bams and the Volunteers. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I think that Alabama game on February 11th is going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. I think Alabama's more talented. I think Auburn gets better coaching. So I'll be interested to watch that one. I'm going to be watching that one from somewhere else. We're going to do the show, of course, because it's a Bam Bam game. We got to be there. But I'm going to be away from the headquarters here. Oh, yeah. We're going to be doing that one on the laptop, so we'll figure that one out as we get there. Got to go on a little secret mission on that one. Blake R says Scotty Pullman was an awesome little guard, too. That's right. It's a little before BP's time. I think Scotty was, 99-ish at his peak, maybe 2000. Scotty P. I had a chance in the new arena, so it couldn't have been too long ago. I had a chance to run into Scotty P., who's now a executive in the greater Atlanta area, as you would expect. Still friends with Abe Smith. And, yeah, I got to hug him up, man. I love me some Scotty Pullman. He was fun to cover, too. I know Scotty B, who's not here, but Scotty B was a big fan of Scotty Pullman as well. Scotty had his own little crew there, like the Scotty P corner crew. Because, Pullman loved to kind of settle in that corner and shoot threes from the corner. He loved that. It was just like his angle, He was terrific. Mobile Alum jumping in with another super chat. What a legend. She says, which basketball players leave next year that aren't seniors? Interesting question. We kind of went through this the other day. And I asked around about this a little bit. Let me switch over to our basketball roster page. Guys, can you help me over here just a little bit, please? Basketball roster? Yeah, it's called Hoops Roster. Thanks, guys. There's the roster as it stands right now. the question here for me is going to be Westry and Traore, right? So those are two highly regarded freshmen who are not playing or not playing very much. Are they going to be ultimately satisfied and good with what's going on at Auburn to the point where they don't leave? I don't know. So Zepp's going to be gone no matter what. And, Simo's going to be here. Al is probably going to – he damn near left last year, and he's having a better year this year. I got to believe Al's going to be gone, whether he goes to the NBA or if he goes overseas or whatever. That's just my gut feeling. I don't know anything there for sure. I tend to think that Jalen's going to come back because he can get a COVID year and go one more year. Broom's going to be back. Dylan's going to be back. I think Stretch is going to be gone. I think it's Stretch is what he is. So I think you got 2 spots for sure. And then I've got this sneaky suspicion, and I don't know this. No one's told me this, but I've just got this sneaky suspicion that Wendell won't be here next year. I just don't know that he'll be here next year. Aiden Holloway's coming in, and he's a full-featured, badass point guard. I don't know, man. And you got Trey. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Great question there, young lady. Thank you for that super chat, the second one. Your second one of the game. Of the day. Why did I say game? Well, technically, I guess it is a game. Let's see. There's our base page again. So I'm thinking 3 spots open, and then you bring in just Aiden, so that technically would leave you 2 spots to fill up with the portal. And you probably want to get a 2 guard that can shoot, right? Like a Julian Phillips, he's playing 3 at Tennessee, but he could play 2 here, or Terrence Shannon, who's playing 2 and 3 at Illinois and having a great year. AU Taxman says this team could use a Scotty P. Auburn kind of has a Scotty P, and I think that's what Lior is, more or less. It's a different body, Lior's taller and longer than Scotty ever was, but I think if you let Lior just sit out there all year and shoot threes and be bad on defense, I think he could put up some numbers similar to Scotty. I'm not saying exactly the same, but it's the same genre, I think. And another guy who's a lot like Scotty P is Derek Bird, who played on the 2003 team that went to the Elite Eight. Or, no, it was a Sweet 16. They lost to Syracuse. But another incredible guy. Every time I see Derek Bird, I love him more. Lives up in Ypsilanti, Michigan. That last check. Guys that can just shoot threes. I'm surprised coaches don't have more of those players. I think you guys probably feel the same way, right? Why doesn't Auburn have a couple dudes that just shoot, really good shooters? I don't know. It's a great question. BP ain't the only one, though, There's a lot of people that do stuff like that. Justin says Auburn needs Trey Alexander. Trey Alexander, of course, signed with Auburn out of Oklahoma City. Asked out of his letter of intent when Auburn picked up KD. He was scared of KD, essentially. Ended up going to Creighton, and he's been good at Creighton. He's been good. He's not necessarily shooting at an elite level at Creighton, but he's playing at an elite level. I'm going to go ahead and check on his numbers. Because I haven't checked. I haven't checked on him lately. Trey Alexander is their 5th scoring option, it looks like. He still gets used a good amount. 20% of possessions go to him. He is shooting 39% from 3, 47% from 2, 82% at the line. Holy shit. Yeah. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. Looks like he's got a pretty good handle, too, for, a shooting guard. Yeah, you're right about that. Auburn would definitely benefit from him. I figured he would. Playing a bunch of minutes for them. He's in their number 1 lineup. Plays a bunch. So, yeah, you're right about that, Justin. They would definitely benefit from that. Hugely, bigly. Mobile alum jumps in with another super chat. Look at her. She's going off. She says, are we taking a quarterback after spring? Heard rumors McCall may still be an option at the end of the spring. Yes. And I want to say this. Grayson McCall, the talented Coastal Carolina quarterback, if he comes in, that isn't going to create any logjam for Walker White because Grayson McCall at that point would be a one-year guy. The key there is that he needs to, first of all, graduate from Coastal, and then at that point, Auburn has a chance to get him into college here as a graduate student. Now, there's going to be other teams that are chasing him, most notably Florida, but I think Auburn can get him if they make that, if they really push for that. And they stay with him the whole way through, which they have done to this point. I don't know if they would acknowledge that publicly. It sure seems like they're staying with him. Let's see. Newman says Trey was just not a fit, Justin. Afraid of competition would not work with BP and result in being a cancer. Yeah, I don't think there was a way to kind of cram him in here after that had gone down. And I think they're still surprised by how that all unfolded. Crawdaddy says it always seems like Villanova. Yeah, Villanova, 2-time national champions in the last 5 years. And Butler get really good shooters. Butler. That's how Rick Pitino used to call it. Butler. I have not kept up with Butler at all since Dude left. Let's see if they've got some shooters. Oh, shit, yeah, they do. Some dude named Seamus, who's shooting 41%. Some other dude named Jaden, who's shooting 35%. Yeah, you're right. These dudes always have some shooters, don't they? They also have a dude playing for them named Ali. What a great name. I love it. What a stud that guy is, I bet. Used to play at Akron. Who cares? Nobody. I don't know, man. I don't know why these teams, other teams have shooters, and Auburn seems to be short of them, starved of them. I don't know. They were looking at guys in the portal that were pretty damn good last year, though. It's not like they just completely ignored them and said, shoot it. We don't need shooters. Fuck it. They were trying to get them. They just didn't get them. All right, what else we got here to talk about basketball-wise? Anything else? We've talked about LeBaron. We've talked about Tahad Pettiford being essentially Damon Stoudemire, or has that ceiling. Talked about Walker White, the outstanding quarterback from Little Rock, Arkansas, who committed to Auburn yesterday on the football side. I think he's a franchise player starting in the 2024 season. And he's also going to be a big-time recruiter on Auburn's behalf. We've talked about the game. A game that was pretty impressive in a lot of ways, but ultimately unfulfilling from an Auburn perspective. Tons of defense, not much shooting. Really on either side. But Auburn, I think they lost this game at the end, once all the dust settled. I think they lost this game from Tennessee's ability to offensive rebound on that end versus Auburn's ability to defensive rebound on that end, which yielded Tennessee 8 extra shots in this game, and that was the difference. They won by a bucket. We can talk about the last sequence and how that was not called a foul or not judged a foul. It is what it is. If you don't give Tennessee 8 extra shots, Auburn wins this game. Rebounding was particularly bad in the first half, was better in the second half for sure, but still problems. Gray Manley asks about Boateng. He's talking about Honor Boateng, the forward/wing from Arkansas. I do like where Auburn stands on him in a general sense. I don't think he's going to go to Arkansas, which is what happened with Nick Smith, a similar kind of player that they recruited. But I don't know. If they're able to put the 2 point guards they've already got, plus, well, they got Peyton Marshall in that class as well. I don't know what to think about him, but if you put Floyd Badunga on there, I don't know. I don't know. They still need room in the portal. Kanuman says, congratulations to Pipe, and then the next comment says, oops, I mean the opposite. Sorry, Pipe. I guess Indiana beat him, huh? Is that what happened? Sad. Purdue has the player of the year in Zach Edey. Their big, huge center. He's actually really, really gifted. He's a gifted player. Really, really good. But it's sad that they can't go to Indiana and win. I hate Indiana. Absolutely hate them. Not as much as Duke, though. And Blake says, down goes Purdue. Let's pour one out for the Boilers. Our friend Pipe, of course, big Boiler fan. And his friend Jordan. Well, guys, it's been a hell of a show. We've gone almost an hour and a half talking about this, that, and the other thing. We still have plenty of hours left on our Saturday night to go and do things that would uplift us and our families, like drink bourbon or playfully slap our wives on the ass and tell them that they look great tonight. You could do something like that. You could play with your kids. I can't. Mine's in Mobile at college, but if you have kids at home, you could do that too. You could play around. Maybe do some Legos. Maybe play Rock Band. Maybe you do a book report. I don't know. It's whatever you want to do. You're choosing your own adventure for your own life. Let's see, Gray Manley says, got to think the Flannies have the habit since he's from Little Rock. Yeah, I would have thought that about Nick Smith, too. He ended up going to Arkansas. He hadn't played much. He's been hurt. Justin C says, Bammer #1 next week coming into Neville. That's going to be a Wolves den, isn't it? If true. If Bama does get to #1. I think Auburn's got a lot of horsepower, particularly at home. And I think they can win that basketball game. Henry agrees with me on that. Wasn't sure about that. I don't think they can beat Alabama and Tennessee at home. I don't think they'll win both of those games. I think they'll split them. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. D. Lucky says night peeps. If D. Lucky's out, I'm out. It's that simple. So go out there and make your Saturdays great, y'all. I will see you guys again on a Wednesday night. The game's going to be at Texas A&M. It's a big game. That game's going to be on ESPN2, tipping off at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. And it's a reclamation game, right? Kind of got embarrassed at Neville Arena by A&M last week. This is a chance to go out there and get some back. A game that's going to be scouted capably by Coach Chad Pruitt and also Coach Wes Flanagan. So we'll wrap it up from there, from here in Montgomery, the headquarters of the Brain Drain. Appreciate you guys being here with us. The chat was incredible tonight, the super chats. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being so generous and supportive of what we do here at the Brain Drain. Those of you who are in the lower Alabama area, we'll be doing a in-person show or event there in late April, so I'll give you more details as they get firmed up. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Be good. See you Wednesday night. Peace.